So I'm going to talk to you about all of that and why, just why, after all this time I decided to take even more exams. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Rebecca and on this channel I'll go through all things accounting, finance, Excel and investment related. So if you like this kind of content then please do consider subscribing, and otherwise as always we're going to jump straight into today's video. So today's video is a bit of a random one because I decided that after 7 years of taking exams non-stop, so doing my AAT and ACA, that I was officially done. I was never, and this is golden, going to touch another exam again because I am awful at exams. I'm very good at coursework, but in an exam I just panic and everything goes out the window. I can't even remember my name half the time. And so yeah, that was it. I was done, I was dusted, never again. And then in November and December, I started talking to a lot of individuals who are ICB qualified, and I suddenly thought to myself, I don't know a great deal about the ICB, and I get a lot of questions from students asking about the ICB. I know, why don't I go ahead and sit the ICB? So I'm going to talk to you about all of that and why, just why, after all this time I decided to take even more exams. Yeah, here we are. So first off, anybody who hasn't heard of the ICB, that's just the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers, and it's basically a qualification with the intention of becoming a bookkeeper. So it's quite like the AAT in some regards. Some of the questions that I've been asked and some of the exams that I've already taken, because why not over the Christmas period just take a load of exams? They're quite similar to the AAT. But again, there is this big focus on bookkeeping and real world practice sort of examinations. And what I found so far with the ICB is A, they're really supportive. I was actually quite shocked at the amount of support that I got. I ended up having a half-an-hour phone call with somebody from the ICB when I first started talking to them, because I didn't even know what exemptions you could take, if any, towards the ICB if you already had other qualifications. And I was quite shocked at what I ended up finding out, so we'll go through that in a second. And the second thing that I found is that just the community of those that are in the ICB have been so supportive of me taking my exams again after all this time. So the first thing that I want to go through, and that I really wasn't expecting at all, was that there is an exemption route that you can go down if you are AAT or if you're ACCA or if you're part of another qualification, and I'll go on the website in a second just to show you where you can find that information. So if you go down the exemption route, it means that you've obviously got exemption to certain exams and you can become an associate member or a member, depending on what exams you've taken. And sometimes they'll ask for a reference of somebody who is currently an ICB member or somebody who is a chartered accountant, just to reference the work that you've undertaken in the past 2 years. That's relevant towards these exams to give you those exemptions. So I personally have been in accounting and finance for well over a decade now, and started my journey off actually in bookkeeping, and then I did my AAT qualification, and then I went on to do audit and forensic accounting, medical accounting, etc. With my ACA, and then I qualified under ACA, and like I say, I haven't touched a single exam since then. So when I rang up and I said, okay, I think, but I'm not sure, that we might be able to go down the exemption route, can you tell me a little bit more about that? And the very helpful gent on the other end of the phone said, okay, so here's the criteria. So are you part of another qualification? Yes. What qualification? AAT. Fine. Any others? Yes. ACA. No problem. Okay, so it looks like we might be able to take you down the exemption route. Now, the next criteria is that you have to have had 2 years relevant experience in the last 2 years working in practice. Now that's key, because I stopped working in practice over 5 years ago. So I trained in practice for the first 7-8 years, and then after that I moved into industry and went into more of like a commercial route. So because of that, it then meant that I couldn't use my current experience towards gaining an exemption for a qualification. So that's fine. So he said, the other thing we can do then is find somebody who you worked with who's a chartered accountant who can sign you off and say, you happen to take in this work and go down the tick list in effect as a reference. And I said, okay, that might be an issue because the individuals that I work with are SEMA qualified or they're part of another qualification that is not, they're not chartered, the AAT or the qualified by experience, for example. So there was a bit of silence at the other end of the phone, and he said, okay, so you don't have anybody that can sign you off as having undertaken work experience in the last 2 years? No. When did you pass your AAT? A long time ago. So not within the last 5 years? No. When did you qualify ACA? Was that in the last 5 years? No. So at that point I suddenly realised that I might not be able to go down this exemption route after all, because my qualifications are outside of that 5-year period, and I don't have a reference from somebody who's either ICB or chartered. So they ended up taking my case to the board for them to discuss, because it was such a strange sort of set of circumstances to see if I could go down the exemption route, and in the end we couldn't do that. So that's when they told me on the phone that I would have to take my level 2 and level 3 ICB exams, and I thought, oh my word, I've become a student again for the first time in I don't know how many years. So my next question to him was, well, when can I take these exams and how do you take these exams? Because with the AAT, all of that was in a test centre, and I thought, well, you know, time dependent on the fact that I'm working full time and possibly don't have the time on weekends either, how am I going to even sit these exams? And he said, no, the majority of the exams are actually 24/7 online, so you can book them and you can take them at home. And I thought, okay, great, so when can I take my first exam? And he said, well, you can actually take it the moment that you get a student membership. So I asked again, so can we transfer my membership from the exemption route onto a student membership? And he said, yes, no problem, it might be done by the end of today. So that was actually on the 10th of December, which I think was a Friday. It was like the 9th or the 10th. And I decided that night to go ahead and take my first mock, because I thought, well, I don't want to go ahead and just sit these exams not knowing how they look, or, you know, is it multiple choice, or do I need to write anything down? And when he confirmed that the pass rate is actually 85%, I thought, I'm not arrogant enough to just go ahead and sit an exam and expect to pass it first time, so let's just order the mocks. I'm not going to order the books, I'm just going to order the mocks, do the mocks, and then see how I get on. And yeah, the mocks were fine. So the mocks were 3 hours each, and you know, I just sort of got through them quite quickly. And then after passing the mock, I decided, okay, the next day I was going to sit my exam. So I sat my exam on the Saturday, I think, and passed. So I thought, okay, that's one exam down. So there's 3 exams at level 2. And the first was, you know, basic bookkeeping, so didn't have any problems. Second exam was further bookkeeping. So I went ahead and did the mock again the next day, passed, and thought, well, whilst I'm here, I might as well sit the exam. So I ended up sitting the exam that same day. And then the next day decided, you know, I'll have a look at what the next exam entails, which was all software related. So you have to do an exam on a specific type of software, so whether that be QuickBooks Xero or Sage, for example, you choose and you tell them what package you're going to be using in your exam, and then they ask you to pull off certain reports and to input certain things into the type of software that you're using, and then say you submit these reports and they mark them, and then you pass or fail. So I did the mock, and it was all a self-review after, which I didn't even realise at the time when I was doing it. And I think I spent 5.5 hours of the 6 hours allotted in the mock just going over what I'd done already and making sure that that was correct, because again, some of these things that they were asking me to do, it's been a while. I'm definitely a little bit rusty. And yeah, it passed. So I just decided the next day that I was going to go ahead and sit my third exam at level 2, and I'll show you that on the screen in a second as well. And then I thought, okay, I know it's going to be a while before they review you at level 2 to see if you can do level 3, and it said estimate results for level 2 in January. So I thought, okay, no, it's fine, I'll have a break over Christmas anyway. And then it came through and said, you know, you can book your level 3 exam. Do you want to go ahead and take that? And so I decided, yeah, why not? So I can't remember the date that I did my first exam at level 3, but it could have been the 30th, so the 30th of December. I sat my mock because again I didn't want to just go ahead and take the exam in case something very strange came up or I wasn't used to the way the exam was laid out, because sometimes you have boxes where you've got to put a 0, sometimes you can leave them blank, sometimes they've got to be to decimal places or rounded, and yeah, attention to detail is definitely key in these exams. So did the mock on the 30th and decided whilst I was on a roll I was going to go ahead and take the exam that day, so I did. I managed to pass it, so I moved on to the next exam, which is M5. So again did the mock, and I haven't done, I think M5 is the not-for-profit organisation, so you've got to prepare a set of accounts in effect and answer some questions on a not-for-profit organisation. I thought I've not done that in a while, so I did the mock and ended up failing the mock, I think, only by a few marks, but the pass mark's 85%, so I thought, oh dearie me, let's just try and do the exam anyway. So I sat that 3 hours later and passed it that same day, so I thought, this is great, we're on a roll, so let's do M6. So on the 1st, so January the 1st, and it's now the 3rd, I decided to, yeah, go ahead and sit the next exam at M7. So I did the mock first, again, passed the mock and thought, let's just get this done. So I sat M7 in the afternoon, and then I did a mock for, no, that was M6 in the afternoon, then I did the mock for the M7, decided that wasn't terrible, and I produced a lot of limited company accounts in the past, so I just sat the exam that day and yeah, passed that as well. So at this moment in time I have one exam to do, which is not something that you can just do online, you have to book that over the phone. So that's M8, and that's where you've usually got to go into an assessment centre or they review you on screen to make sure there's no funny business going on. So their phone lines are open again in 2 days, I believe. So in 2 days' time I'm going to be booking my final exam for the ICB, and fingers crossed all goes well. So watch this space. So that's sort of the backstory behind all of that, and I'm going to show you on screen now quickly what the ICB looks like. So the ICB actually got the Accountancy Body of the Year and Innovation in Accountancy Award this year just gone. But you can see here by the 2021 PQ Awards winner, and I'm not surprised. I say the level of support that I've received all throughout this has just been absolutely incredible. So if you go to study and qualification there, you can find here that there is a link to exemptions, which is really easy to find, and they've got this pathway here to say, so do you have 2 consecutive years relevant work experience from the last 5 years? If no, you have to register as a student. If yes, you can apply for membership, provide 2 references, then you've got to take, there's 2 entry exams that you have to get 85% and above with to pass to then gain this exemption. Next question, do you have relevant qualifications completed in the last 5 years? Again, if you say no, then you've got to register as a student. If you say yes, then they ask if your qualifications are less than 2 years old. If no, you have to provide 2 consecutive years of relevant work experience, and again, then you can apply for exemptions. If not, then you're going to go ahead and have to apply for either a student membership or membership and take one of the entry exams. So I'll leave that conversion chart there just for a second for you to go ahead and have a look at. And then down here, let's just go ahead and find qualifications. So here we go. So the core qualifications are level 2 and level 3. So level 2 certificates in bookkeeping, where you've got A1, A2 and A3. So they test the concepts of double entry bookkeeping, how to enter transactions, producing TBs, identifying, correcting errors, and reconcile sales and purchase ledger balances. So again, if you're somebody like me who's worked in accounting and finance for years, then you shouldn't really have an issue with those exams. It's just that you've got to read the question, as I found. So level 3 here, you can see that that's the self-employed bookkeeper or employed bookkeeper route. And here you have M4, M5, M6, M7 and an M8 exams. So M7 is the M4 is the reconciliation and final accounts of the sole trader, M5 is final accounts for a partnership, M6 is final accounts for not-for-profit, M7 final accounts for an incorporated business, so like a limited company, etc. And then M8 is the level 3 certificate in bookkeeping and account synoptic exam. So it's like the synoptics that you do at AAT, but just covering everything that you've learned all the way throughout level 2 and level 3. And there are books that you can buy, etc. It tells you here, student membership is £55 annually, exams are £65 per exam, and then it's £15 for a mock. But I do recommend that if you're looking at doing this, if you currently work in accounting and finance or have done it for a long time and have other qualifications, just buy the mocks because it'll set you up for those exams. You can buy textbooks for £45 per unit on here, but I didn't do that just because I have ample amounts of reference books if I need to. And then there's also supplementary qualifications that you can take with the ICB. So you can do level 2 in payroll admin, level 3 in payroll management, level 3 in self-assessment tax, and level 3 in diploma in costing and budgeting. And then there are also advanced qualifications you can take. So if you take 3 of these modules, then you get a diploma at level 4 in advanced bookkeeping and accounting. But you can take them individually too, but they're not requirements to gain ICB. They are in themselves separate sort of additional exams you can take, so the standalone certificates. So there's level 4 certificate in self-assessment tax, level 4 certificate in corporation tax, level 4 certificate in financial statements for small and micro businesses, and level 4 certificate in business insight. So I'm going to look at those once I've hopefully, touch wood, qualified as under ICB level 2 and level 3. But we'll look at those again in a future sort of episode and I'll let you know how I'm getting on. So I hope that gives you a little bit of background about what the ICB is, and also why I, after all this time, has decided to undertake even more exams like you do. And if you've got any questions about the ICB, then hopefully, having taken some of the examinations myself, spoken to the ICB and other members of ICB, I can now answer some of them for you. So yeah, I hope you found it useful. Consider subscribing as always, like the video if you did find it useful, and I shall see you on the next video.